So I'm here today with Micheal Madrigale, the head sommelier at Boulud, recently opened in the Upper West Side, also Epicierie Boulud, and Bar Boulud, where he's been for a couple of years. Mike, thanks a lot for taking the time today.
My pleasure, Larry. Great to do this.
Mike, you're one of those guys who really brings a lot of energy to the floor. People really seem to gravitate towards you coming in, having a glass of wine. It's almost like they're having a glass of wine with you.
Mm-hmm.
You love to open bottles, you love to interact with guests, you love to work the floor. What are some of the things you look for when it's your night off and you're going to someone else's restaurant? What are some of the factors that you really think, boy, these guys got to figure it out?
Well, I go out all the time. That's what we do in this business. And what initially drives me to a restaurant is the food and the wine and what a great restaurant is supposed to do. But there's the factor of atmosphere that I really value in a restaurant, because it's something that you can't break down to a science.
Sure.
It's something, either you have it or you don't. And it's immediately known if you have it or if you don't.
You can feel it walking in.
You feel the energy walking into a restaurant. It's the music that's playing, it's the way someone smiles at you on the staff, it's the way the cushion feels on the table. It's all those things put together really make a restaurant, as well, as the food and the wine. It's just that you can't really describe it. It almost feels like home.
So what are restaurants in New York where you think, or anywhere in the world, where you think, boy, that feels comfortable to me. That's a place I enjoy to go. What are some of the reference points restaurants when you think about great restaurants?
On the high end, I like Maria. I like the way that restaurant feels.
There's a real adult, but also casual feel to it. It's almost impossible to really think through in a way that's, like you said, like study points. It's hard to.
It feels right when you go there.
Sure.
And I think, not as sophisticated. There's this restaurant in my neighborhood in the East Village called Cafe Mogador.
Oh, okay, sure.
And it's this Moroccan-style restaurant. And the food is amazing, and the vibe of the place is just really youthful and attractive and really fun. And I usually go there for brunch every weekend. It's really happening.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're somewhere special when you're there.
Is that important to you? Sometimes I feel like when I'm out, I like a sense of bustle, and I like a sense of, it's overly calm, it's overly concentrated. Sometimes that loses me. I like a little bit of going somewhere.
Yeah, I like buzz.
To the max.
I like buzz a lot. And music, I really pay attention to in restaurants.
Of all the sommeliers I know, I think you're the most in tune to music.
Yeah.
I mean, musical references, music just on the floor, creating a mood. Is that, when you think about wine, do you think about it musically at all, or do you think about it in those terms, or is it?
Only in terms of, I think it's because I'm sensitive, and I really respond to stimulus.
Okay.
And wine is a stimulus, like music is a stimulus, like art is a stimulus, like attractive women are a stimulus. It's all, for me, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
here we are.
Yeah, it makes me tingle.
Yeah.
And so I find them one.
All of the pieces.
Everything is together.
And it's almost like you can't have one without the other.
No.
You're not going to be hanging with some attractive woman and not play a good song.
Right, it just heightens everything.
Can't take the burgundy out of the crew,
No.
So Mike, you're one of those guys who's really always struck me as like focused. I mean, you love wine. It was like, it's not focused in a studied sense, but in a more casual sense. But you had a direction. Like, this is what I wanted to do. Like, when you think about Micheal Madrigale, I don't think about somebody who could have been a traffic cop, could have been, auto repair. Like, wine was the deal, like, there was no stops. That was an express train, So here you are.
Yeah.
Now, who are some of the people that maybe influenced you in the early days to really make that decision? It's like you went with it full force, it was like, no question.
Yeah.
So, like, were there people that really stood out for you in your career, either winemakers, sommeliers, retailers, that you thought, they've got to figure it out. I want a piece of that.
Yeah. It was the first day, it was at Burgundy Wine Company.
Okay.
Really.
So a great retailer in Chelsea, I believe. Is that where they're located?
Yeah, they're in Chelsea now, but they used to be in the West Village, right on the same block as the Spotted Pig.
And several great wine people come out of there in terms of writers and.
Yeah. It was Bruce Anderson, Andrea Immer, the guys who started Italian Wine Merchants.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were there. I mean, just like a long list of really important wine people
And you
have
felt
gone
the
through
vibe.
those
You
two.
came
And that's all it
like,
was.
This was the deal.
Dude, it was the vibe of that place. And when I first went there for the interview, I looked at it. I was like, "What is this?"
Simple.
It was.
Farmhouse style.
It was like it was like an office. It wasn't even a wine shop.
Okay.
It looked like a travel agency. And then and as soon as I walked in, I was like, "There's no way I'm taking this job."
Sure.
And then I sat down with the owner and we talked about wine. And she seemed very interesting. And then they were like, "Why don't you just come, stay for the day, and check it out and see how see how it feels." And the way
Fair
that
offer.
it was,
Yeah.
and it was like non-committal, totally. And the way they were talking about wine, I had never heard anyone talk about wine like that.
What are some of the things that came out? I mean, passion is a word that gets overused a lot, I think,
Yeah.
in business. But I mean, what was the deal? You felt like there was a real engagement with the subject?
Yeah, the understanding of wine was on a level that was primal,
Right.
and it wasn't over intellectualized.
Sure.
It was like, dude, this is the bomb,
Right.
and this is why.
Sure.
And that for me was like
cutting through
all
all the layers and just
Yeah.
getting to like
To
this
the
is
essence
where
of
you
what
wanna
it
be.
was.
Like you
And-
want this experience.
right. And for someone getting into the business, that was really like manna from heaven. That's exactly what I wanted at that time.
Sure.
I wanted to really feel the wine in a visceral way. Definitely bringing the intellectual side of it, but more connecting it from my heart,
Mm-hmm.
and then going from there into
Nobody
the
was trying to
intellectual
game
side.
you. It wasn't like they were trying to
No.
talk over the subject. They were like here,
Right.
and they loved it too, and they brought you into development.
Yes, and that was the best. That was the step that really put me here today.
Put you in.
Oh yeah,
But you also did harvest in Burgundy.
right. Well, that was through Burgundy Wine Company.
Through Burgundy Wine Company.
Yeah, because I met people from the Domaine d'Arlot who were very good friends with the owner of Burgundy Wine Company, and they hooked me up with getting my foot in the door to work there. And it could have been, a month,
Sure.
but for me it ended up being 2 years. Because I just stayed
Wow,
the whole
look at
time.
that.
Yeah.
And that was during one of the hottest vintages on record, so you
Yeah.
had to really want it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you were there
it's
for
true.
03
Well, I
harvest.
was there for
yeah.
02 and 03.
Wow, so that's a real study in contrast.
Yeah,
in a way,
it was great.
I see you got out after 03. You're like,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Time to go back to New York.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I mean,
Uh-huh.
now you're in charge of your own program.
Yeah.
How do you build some of that culture? I mean, when you look, say that there's a young sommelier watching this video right now, what are some of the things you look for in a hire? When you think, boy, I'd like to work with that guy, or this is my philosophy, I want you to kind of help me embody that on the floor. What are
Right.
some of the things that you verbalize or that you find important when you're working with other people? Because you and I both know it's not just about one person. It's just too big of a scope to
Sure.
deal with just one person. You have to build a team. So what are the things that you like when you're building a team?
Knowledge is very important.
Sure.
That will get your foot in the door, but that's all it'll get you in my world.
Right.
What really sets people apart who I interview for a position here are passion
Mm-hmm.
and charm
Mm-hmm.
and humility and a sense of knowing how to take care of people.
So it's a service business.
It is, and you have to remember that.
Right.
Restaurants are service.
Mhm.
And I remember I went to a restaurant one time, and I won't say what it is, but I was eating at the bar, and the bartender, just kept railing about natural yeast and how it's bad for wine, and just pontificating and just saying all this information
Right.
about natural yeast. And I was sitting there with my dish,
Right.
and I had no silverware.
Right.
And he totally
Right.
didn't care that I didn't have silverware.
Right.
He just had to tell me about what he knew.
Right.
And that was put it in a nutshell
Yeah.
of what is wrong with wine people. Service is first and foremost. And if you're going to be in this business, you better do it right.
And sometimes I find that little knowledge is the worst thing.
Yeah, that's
you
like
know what I
that
mean?
saying.
There's a
Yeah.
certain comfortability level that comes. I think I just coined that phrase. But there's a certain comfort level that comes from knowing a fair amount that
Yeah.
allows you to be more kind of just at home
Yeah.
with people because you're not so kind of nervous around the subject. I
Right,
think.
and it's true. And I mean, the real wine, the people that I really respect and I think know a lot, they're very humble because they know they don't know everything.
They don't know.
They realize.
It's a big.
Right, it's true. And I was kind of like that too when I first started. I thought I knew a lot.
Yeah, me
Before
too.
I became a
Me
sommelier.
too.
Like I was selling wine a little bit.
And I apologize to anyone I met, say 5 years ago. I take it over that.
Yeah, but it's true. And then you really get to taste wine as a som, and you really see what's out there, and it just shuts you up.
Sure.
And it's just like...
It's like the more every day you're like, wow, I don't
know anything.
Yeah,
I don't know anything.
And so much of it is kind of unexplained in a way. You know, like how do those mechanisms really work? The things that we sort of take for granted in a lot of everyday stuff.
Yeah,
now you've been super drawn to Burgundy, and one of the things that I've seen when I've tasted with you is with a good wine, you can trace it back to where it comes from.
Yeah.
That seems to be a criteria for you. It's like, this is something that's important to me. I want to be able to know from the glass back to the place.
Right.
And a lot of people, you know, maybe historically, I remember in the late 90s, you know, everyone was looking for big fruit. That wasn't always a criteria. So was that something that you think you picked up at Burgundy Wine Company, or where along the line did you decide place is important to me? I want to be able to sense where this is coming from, and why is it important? Why are you looking for an answer that's not just written on the label, but also in the flavors?
Well, that's a great question. And I mean, in my life and the things that I value, I've always valued originality and honesty.
Sure.
And like, you know, related to music, like you have a guy like Graham Parsons, who was was a real original. And he kind of brought country music into rock and roll.
Sure.
And you know, not many people really know about this guy Graham Parsons. He's really...
I'll be honest and say that I know.
Okay. But he was like one of the first guys in the 70s to really create this style of music that was eventually co-opted by a lot of musicians. The Eagles, for example. And the Eagles became the biggest band in the world.
Sure. And if you're wearing a Don Henley collar right now, I want you to change that outfit and then come back watch video.
Right. And, but like, I kind of felt that they ripped off Graham Parsons.
Yeah.
And made it palatable for the masses.
For the masses. They kind of like cleaned it up.
Yeah, they figured out what he was doing. They're like, that's what's up.
Edges, made it, you know.
Made it user friendly.
Sure.
But Graham Parsons is more raw, it's more emotional, it's more real. And I value that over the Eagles. And that's the kind of wine I value. I value wines that really are honest to their origins. And whether that tastes like shit or it tastes like cotton candy is almost, for me, it's coincidental.
It's like secondary.
It's secondary.
If all the wines taste like shit from that area, it's almost better if they came out that way.
Right, and that's being honest to where it comes from.
And you may not buy that wine, but at least that gets more props in your world than like the one that's
the manipulated,
the confected one.
Totally.
It's trying to be somewhere else.
Totally. I'd rather it be ugly, but you know, being honest from where it comes from, than being beautiful and being, you know, phony. With makeup.
Wines that you said at one point in your career, this is what I thought about them, and then say 5 years later or 3 years later, you thought, this is what I think about that wine. I mean, maybe one particular vintage of one wine that you've encountered a few times, where you've gone back and you said, gee, I didn't catch that last time. It's like reading a novel sometimes for a couple times. Subplot. Have the wines have become more important to you with time, where you said, gee, no, I didn't really used to like Yom Shinam, but now I'm kind of moving on. Or what are, you know?
Yeah, you know, yeah, that's actually, now you just remind me of something. Yes, absolutely.
Have there been?
It was Van John.
Vin John, yeah, okay, yeah. I think, you know, with cheese, you know, you gotta have it with the Conte, you know.
Yeah, I remember I was actually in Burgundy, and I was, we were doing the harvest, and Jean-Pierre de Smet was there, and he had a bottle of Van John in his cellar, and it must have come from Auvergnois or Mackel.
Sure.
You know, it was like one of the
the
great producers. Yeah. And he opened it up, and I was like, I hate this. This is disgusting.
I'm out.
And he looked at me literally like, you're an idiot.
You're right.
You don't know anything.
Right.
But I was like, you know, I don't like it.
Right.
And then as time had gone on, I really understood it, and I really started to love it. It's like when I also lived in France, when I first had pastis, I was like,
sure, right. And what's this? It's green.
Right, you know? It's gross. And then what I would do is I would go to the bars, because I was alone, and I would just go to bars myself in Dijon and order. I always wanted to try to understand it, so I would order pastis, but they would add a little like syrup in it.
Okay.
So they would add mint syrup, and that was called something, and then they'd add almond syrup, and I would drink it, and then over time it became like too sweet.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, well let me try it without it.